On the wedding day, Benjamin lifted the bride's veil, but he realized he had married his beloved Morgana. It was then that he realized the woman he had just met, wearing a mask and marrying off to an international alliance, was the Alice he was supposed to marry today. So, without considering Morgana's pleas, he ran out to find Alice. Unfortunately, at this moment, it was already too late. In the previous life, Alice, relying on her identity as a young lady, married Benjamin. This led to Morgana, Alice's adopted sister, having to marry the mafia boss on Alice's behalf. After just half a year, Morgana was tortured to death. Because of this, in the 5 years of marriage, Benjamin had never shown Alice a kind face. Alice also hated that Benjamin married her, while his heart was filled with Morgana. So, this day, Alice finally couldn't take it anymore and proposed a divorce to Benjamin. But Benjamin immediately threw away the divorce papers, claiming that he would make Alice stay by his side for life and endure the pain. Just then, a killer suddenly appeared, and Benjamin quickly blocked the bullet. Seeing this, Alice immediately began to cry, thinking that Benjamin still loved her. However, Benjamin refused to admit it, saying that even if it were another woman, he would have done the same. He then told Alice not to marry him in the next life. Unexpectedly, in the next moment, Alice truly reincarnated. She was reborn to the day of the marriage alliance. This time, Alice didn't hesitate to propose herself for the alliance. She also told her father to leave Benjamin for Morgana. Upon hearing this, her father immediately pretended to reluctantly agree, but Alice knew that her father had always favored Morgana. Just as Alice was about to leave, she happened to run into Benjamin. Benjamin asked Alice who was going to the alliance, but Alice refused to tell him. This made Benjamin think that Morgana was the one going for the alliance. The next day, Alice went to the shooting range to practice her marksmanship. At that moment, Benjamin came to her. He begged Alice to spare Morgana. Alice had nothing to say to that. She stated that things were still undecided and told Benjamin not to get too agitated. However, when Alice returned home, she found that her porcelain doll was shattered all over the floor. At that moment, Morgana smugly said, "Father has already given my room to me." Saying that, she flaunted the black card her father had just given her. She said she would compensate Alice for whatever money she needed. Alice was about to lose her temper when suddenly Benjamin barged in, claiming that it was just a few porcelain dolls and there was no need to be angry. Alice didn't expect that the porcelain doll she cherished was so insignificant in Benjamin's eyes. It turned out that when they were children, Benjamin had promised that if he ever made Alice angry, he would apologize with a porcelain doll. Hearing this, Alice couldn't be bothered to argue anymore. She simply slammed the door and left. Benjamin, feeling Alice's anger, sent her another porcelain doll. But this time, Alice wasn't going to forgive him. She instructed her servant to return the doll immediately. The next day was Morgana's birthday. Alice had no interest in attending, but Morgana insisted on inviting her. So Alice decided to see what trick Morgana was up to. Sure enough, not long after, Alice was insulted by Morgana's friend, but Alice was no pushover. She immediately grabbed a whip and taught the friend a harsh lesson. Seeing this, Morgana immediately shouted that Alice was vicious. As Benjamin arrived, she quickly signaled to her friend. The friend quickly threw a fake snake. Morgana screamed, then pretended to have an asthma attack. Seeing this, Benjamin immediately ran over and scolded Alice, saying that what she had done could result in a tragedy. Alice slapped Benjamin across the face and claimed it wasn't her doing. She then threw the fake snake at Morgana with all her might. Morgana was truly scared this time, and her scream became much louder. Anyone could tell that Morgana was faking it earlier, but Benjamin seemed deaf and continued to scold Alice. At that moment, Alice's father suddenly appeared. Seeing that Morgana had been mistreated, he immediately told Alice to get lost. Alice, seeing that no one welcomed her, left the party without looking back. That evening, Alice went to the old house. She intended to take one last look at her mother before leaving. She held her mother's portrait and cried all night. The next morning, when Alice returned home, she saw that Morgana was drawing all over her mother's belongings. Alice's anger reached its peak. She immediately grabbed a knife and stabbed it down with all her force. In a life-or-death moment, Benjamin shoved her aside, and Alice was forced to slam into the wall and faint. Only then did Benjamin panic. He rushed Alice to the hospital. At the hospital, Benjamin promised Alice that he would marry her and live a good life with her. He begged Alice not to make things hard for Morgana, but Alice had long stopped expecting Benjamin's sincerity. When it was time for Benjamin's wedding, she bought a ticket and headed for the airport. She planned to leave Benjamin forever from that moment on. But just as she was about to board the plane, Benjamin suddenly appeared in front of her. It turned out that Benjamin mistook her for Morgana. Hearing that Benjamin still wanted to elope with Morgana, Alice found it utterly ridiculous. Without hesitation, she turned and left resolutely. Benjamin thought he had sent Morgana away, but when he arrived at the wedding venue and lifted the bride's veil, he discovered that it was actually Morgana, the one he had been thinking of. However, at that moment, there was no joy in Benjamin's eyes. Only fear remained.